Presented by the Making Star Wars Podcasting Network. This is the Cantina Cast, your watering hole for thought-provoking Star Wars discussion, character dissections, quote and scene analysis, honest opinions on the Star Wars news that interests you, and whatever else these guys come up with. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joao.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cantina Cast, the Last Jedi trailer reaction. Something that's been long overdue, we're highly anticipated, I would say, Joe. And I have to say, I'm going to toot our horn a little bit here. I don't like doing this, but we called this back in, I think, right after Celebration, that the next one we would see would be October. And of course, I had said it'll be with Monday Night Football. And sure enough, history repeats yet again. And here we are with a trailer that has me very... I don't know. I don't know how to make this all out. My head's kind of spinning a bit here, which is kind of what I anticipated with Ryan. And, you know, we didn't record normally we do a breakdown right after we see the trailer. Like an hour after that, we get together and record. But life dictated otherwise last night. And I think that worked out for the better, Joe, is because we got a better sense of things, looking things over, talking with our friends in Discord, going back and forth with that and stuff. But, What are your first thoughts? You know, what do you think?
Oh, well, I mean, just to kind of go off what you were saying on the, I don't know if mixed emotions is the right way to phrase it, but I said in last night or this morning, actually, I said that I was thinking of that line from The Phantom Menace where Obi-Wan says, you know, where he feels something elsewhere. It's, you know, it's elusive. And I couldn't put my finger on it. Like I watched the trailer and there was like this feeling like in the pit of my stomach. And I don't know if it, had to do with one thing or the other. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not like, oh, well, like I hated it or I didn't enjoy it. It's just, I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, what? Maybe it was just like the turmoil. Like we've been looking forward to this and then we've got it. And then it's like, so maybe it's just that kind of a thing. And it's just kind of like, you know, we get so into this and it just kind of, I mean, you know, when you have those kind of emotions and stuff, it can take a toll on your body, actually. You know what I mean? So,
that is true. I mean, I didn't get any sleep, and I know you were working last night, but you know, you chimed in a little bit. I know you were up a little later talking to everybody on Discord and everything. But man, I didn't get any sleep, and then of course my daughter kept me up early in the morning, and I'm running on empty right now. But I got coffee, so I'm good to go. But before we get into the trailer, Joe, I just want to spend, and we did this last time with each the big trailer before the movie comes out, is the poster comes out. Obviously, you were off by a couple of days, I think, Joe. We were in the ballpark.
I thought it was gonna. Well, it came out.
Yeah.
It did come out Sunday. I thought it was coming. I was off by a couple hours actually. I said Sunday at noon. So, because that's about what time. That's actually what time it came out for The Force Awakens. So, it didn't come out till actually, what did it come out Monday? So, did it come out Monday night? Okay, Monday. It didn't come out Sunday night. Yeah. So I was off by about 30 hours or so. So not too bad.
Yeah, so
because last time they did with the announcement, they released the poster, like with the announcement that the trailer was coming out. So I thought that they were just going, it looked like they were going the exact same route with all that. So,
well, they got to throw a little curveball in there. You know, you can't have it exact, you know, but, well, what are your thoughts on the poster? I mean, to me, and I've said it in Discord and I said it amongst, other friends and everything. I said, it's not going to top what we got at Celebration. I just love that poster, but you know, you got to keep with the theme of things, you know what I mean? So, you know, we have to have the busybody poster, as I like to call it. You have to have a lot of things, although it seems pretty minimal compared to The Force Awakens and past posters. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on the poster?
Yeah, I didn't spend a whole lot of time looking at it, but it did seem that it was less cluttered than the official Force Awakens one and stuff. So, you know, and the main takeaway I got was it was Luke is the looming big figure in the back, which is usually reserved for a villain. Yeah. So, guy. I mean, I'm not saying anything. We haven't seen any evidence that, you know, Luke is going to do anything. And in fact, I think with the trailer, and we'll get into
quite
it.
Opposite.
Yeah. I feel like that I feel like he's the opposite of a villain. I feel like he's the opposite of a hero. I feel like he doesn't, again, it goes back to what we say, and it's just ringing more true, those ideas we had about Luke being a broken man and not wanting to be involved. And it looks, we talked about those things, but the footage we saw last night and some of the things he said, take this whole trailer with a grain of salt, because these trailers are meant to mislead and misdirect. And, we get a little tease and you don't know what's going to be real, what footage will actually make the movie, what narration, what lines will actually make the movie, or how they're cut to make it sound like it's saying something other than it's saying. So I guess we'll start off by giving that warning out and reminding everybody of that, and that we realize that, and you need to realize that too, and not jump to too many conclusions. That being said, we're going to break it all down anyway.
True, because that's what we do.
But yeah, I mean, it just seems to me, it started to hit home more for me. And maybe that was part of it. Like, it's like, man, Luke is like really actually, we're seeing it now where he's this broken shell of himself. He's not that. And we've talked about it and we've said it, but to actually see it come to fruition a little bit more, I don't know what to think of it. It's like, it kind of, messes with you a little bit because we've been watching movies these movies have been out for 40 years, and however we've been how many ever years each individual person listening or whatever's been a Star Wars fan, you've been watching for a number of years. You've seen those 3 movies with Mark Hamill in it where he is the hero, where he's willing to take on any challenge and he's not afraid, and Yoda tells him he'll be afraid. Anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead, but that's basically my initial thoughts with Luke and the poster, and he's looming. So I don't think that they're saying he's the bad guy. I just thought it was interesting they kind of put him in, maybe in a way he is looming over this whole picture. And obviously we're going to get more than what meets the eye with Luke than in this trailer. There's going to be more to it than that, I think. So.
Well, you say that, but I'll even give it to our Joe in Discord. I just want to shout out to our Discord friends because the channel was hopping last night and things were going crazy. So if you don't, you should join the Discord channel. There's obviously a link in the show description, so do that and have some fun with us. But Joe had mentioned, it looks like Darth Vader's helmet, and so I'd said, well, someone needs to superimpose Vader's helmet over the poster. And sure enough, Leia's like the nose, the ski things there, the ships that are on Crate there, they're like the chain around his neck, and then Luke is obviously the head, and Kylo and Rey are the eyes, and it's like, whoa. So there is more than meets the eye to this whole thing. And then to me, I took that poster as like, well, it's family. It's all kind of full circle, and Vader's looming large. Yet again, still, Anakin's legacy is basically what's going on here. At least in the background, I guess you could say. But we'll move into the trailer, Joe, because, the poster was great and everything, but, we're all here for the trailer. So I was actually interested to see Kylo in the beginning. He's standing there on the big ship there, and sparks are flying around him, and he's doing what Vader used to do, which is like looking out and meditating and contemplating things, all while we have, I guess, the big thing that it started with was everyone saying, oh, who is Snoke talking to? A lot of people say Rey. I initially said Rey, and I think it's a mix of him talking to Kylo in the beginning, where we see him grabbing his new, it looks like it's new, the saber, and he's before the Praetorian guards and everything. And then when he says something special, that type of thing, I think he's actually speaking about Rey. But what are your thoughts on the initial start of the trailer here when you see your boy Kylo?
Yeah, it took me a second. Took a second viewing. I was like, what is he looking at? And obviously it's like the factory or where they're assembling or they're putting together their forces, like their walkers and things like that. And he's overlooking, like their weaponry kind of things, and that's what he's overlooking there. So it's an interesting shot. I don't know that we've gotten too many shots of things like that in Star Wars before, where we're seeing kind of like how the Empire's like putting together their infantry kind of thing, I guess you could say. I don't know if you call it infantry, but their weapons or whatever there
forces,
are.
They're
reinforcements. Yeah, if you're
battalions.
going to use a battlefront term, maybe. So, as far as the quote, the one word in this whole thing that I found peculiar, if he is talking to Kylo, is when he says, "When I found you," and to me that word sticks out to me, and I don't know why. If like Snoke was always kind of in the picture and around since, Ben was young and, even when he was still, with Leia, which is the theory, I guess. I don't know how much of that is theory, how much of it is kind of like, okay, yeah, that's the way it was. That's so, it just sounds like, sounds like a weird, I guess it still could, it makes sense. And maybe Snoke is just that kind of a egotistical jerk that would say, "When I found you," he's like, "What are you talking about when you found me? I was like playing with Legos, like in my room at my mom's house."
Star Wars Legos, man. I was making the Falcon, man. What are you doing?
So it's like you didn't find me. So, but then, if you flip that, well, how would that work if he's talking to Rey? When I found you.
Well, this is just to jump.
Jim in our Discord thought that, and we were talking so much last night, guys. I can't remember who said everything, but I'm sure some other people's ideas are going to jump into my head as we're doing this. And if I don't give you credit, I just want to apologize. I'm not trying to steal it and pass it off as my idea, but so many people were saying different things, and we were also in a voice chat, so I don't know whose voice was everybody saying it. You know what I mean? So I don't want anybody to take slight when our friends are listening to the podcast. They're here, but But I know Jim said that he thought, well, what if Snoke was the one who put her on Jakku? And then that just opens up a whole other can of worms. Like, why would he do that? And things like that. So, but this whole line opens up a can of worms if the first part isn't directed towards Kylo. If that whole thing is like, okay, he's talking to Rey the entire time at the beginning and the end of the trailer, it just opens up a lot of questions. Like, what do you mean when you found her? Like, I mean, that's just the whole thing.
Well, the only thing that popped into my mind, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Joe, is going back to the Force Awakens novelization, where they don't even say it's Snoke. They don't even say who it is, really. But, there's that moment where I'm like, all right, well, does this connect to the book there? Because it's the old, when I found you. And technically, he sensed her, I guess, at that point. I'm not really sure. You could think of it that way, but I don't know. I don't think it's the novelization part of it. So that kind of opens the door for a bit of a mess for the audience who doesn't necessarily read the novels offhand, which is where I was getting with the sloppiness, I guess you could say, with that. But what do you think? What else do you think? Do you think that any inclination or anything?
I don't know. I think there's a couple parts in here where in this trailer where you're like, who or what is the narration referring to? And again, take it with a grain of salt that these lines would even be in the movie in the first place. But I think this happens a couple times where on the surface you think it's supposed to be Kylo, but then you have to like take a step back and you have to at least ask the question, what if it's not talking about Kylo? And there's another line that'll come up here in a minute that we'll get. But that's all I've got on this for right now. But it just... Yeah,
well, see, the interesting thing is this might actually be Kylo, and we take the misdirect right off the bat. Like, we bid at it, but it's actually Kylo he's talking about the whole time. And we're so waiting for the misdirect. They actually gave a bit of truth in.
I mean, where you try to read too much into it because, it can't be as simple as it's making it out to be because the trailer never is. It's always like a misdirect or you're expecting it to be. So either way, they've misdirected you if you're thinking that way. You've already screwed yourself, basically. So we've already screwed ourselves.
Exactly. Well, the interesting shot with the new Guerrilla Walkers is, I'm not sure if I like them, but I kind of like them. I don't know. Is that Kylo is in his shuttle and not in his silencer, which I thought was interesting because they were, preaching the new ship for toys and everything, which obviously you would do because it's a cool looking, toy. So why wouldn't you do that?
Traveling with his troops that we see here in just a minute, so I think... Yeah,
well, that's the next... I was just going to say, now this is a homage to his grandfather in the Jedi Temple here. I took it that way. There's a little bit of ring theory going out throughout this trailer, actually, Joe. There was a couple of nods it seemed, to prequels, which I think is great. But I thought it was interesting that he's going in. It looks like it'd be a back entrance to the Rebel base or something like that. Like he's going in. It's just very interesting. I don't know. What did you think of this?
It's hard to say
here?
It would be a back entrance, seeing as how we don't know what the entrance or anything looks like. But
well, that is. But it is. I'm assuming the gate that Leia's at is the main entrance.
Well, I just wanted to jump back to the walkers just for a second. I mean, I know that it's not that interesting of a thing, but I mean, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who was like. I mean, I immediately picked up on it. It was like they're walking like gorillas, like the way the feet land. And then the way they're shaped and everything. I just thought that was kind of a cool effect. It makes them, well, obviously it doesn't personify them. I don't know what that word would be, but like it makes them like more alive a little bit or something, because like they look more like something that is alive that we're aware of, like a gorilla. So so I don't, that's not personification. It's animalification. I don't know. So anyway, I just thought that was like a cool effect. So I do actually like these walkers a little bit, and I think that they look a little bit more intimidating because I think that the legs, the way they are, it feels like that they're more more stable or something. So I feel like that they would be more effective than the old Empire ones, just by the construction, just based on like looking at it, logic, and the way that it moves, it looks like it would be more intimidating. But we'll move on from that because it's not that crazy important. We don't want to spend too much time on that because there's so much to get to. But
the guy that wasn't a vehicle man has become a vehicle man.
Well, I mean, that's probably the most I've ever had to say on any vehicle ever. So
probably, I think so. But let's get into what Kylo said. Now, I have to admit, this is where I started. I joke around, especially with Katie in the Discord about who was on our show with the MK Ultra episode we had. I joke about Kylo all the time, with his emotional moments and stuff. But here, what he's saying, let the past die, kill it if you have to. This is the only way to become what you were meant to be. I'm like, whoa, damn, I like that. That's like, it reminded me of what Yoda says in Revenge of the Sith, with the past and everything, or attachments and all that other stuff. It leads to greed and all that other stuff. So I thought it was another poignant philosophical question in a way, where,
kill
the past, let go of that past. And of course,
it's an interesting way to look at it from somebody who's trying to be on the dark side of the Force, though, because.
And is embracing his grandfather who is in the past. So, go ahead.
Because you need those past experiences, I would think, to draw on the dark side, to get angry and stuff. So I don't know if this, because it sounds very hateful the way he's saying it, so I can't imagine this is when, if this is any kind of a turning point for him where he's realizing the true Jedi way and he's like, let go of, it still sounds like from these lines he's still in the mindset of trying to accomplish the goal of extinguishing the light within himself and becoming completely dark or whatever it may be. But
this makes me think of the novel Deceived, where Malgus was he killed the Twi'lek, his lover, so to speak, and let go of that ties. That's very reminiscent of what Kylo's doing. He did that with his father. Now, we get the hint that he's going to do this. He's going to take Leia out, his mother, based on the trailer. But I think a lot of us came to the conclusion it's a misdirect, because I don't think that's how it's going to happen, if it happens at all. But, it's interesting that he would do that in order to grow. My question to you now, Joa, is who is he saying this to? Is he saying this to Luke? Is he saying this to Rey? A lot of people speculate it's Rey based on what you see in the trailer. And I got something at the end that might tie into with this one, my theory with Luke as well.
Rey's past is so kind of empty. What would he be telling her there? Correct. Forget your scavenging days, and that's pretty much it. She did the same thing every day for almost her entire life. So it's put that behind. I guess there would be a point to that in a way. But I feel like there would have to be more information given here in this movie, and maybe that's what it's referring to.
Yes, and we'll save that, I guess, for a little bit later, because I think it's a reference, because I think it goes back. I'll just say it here now. I might as well get it out of the way while I have it on my mind, Joe. Is what you've said before. I want to say around The Force Awakens, you even said this when we got back with all those reviews, and we were saying, and you were like, I think that Kylo reveals the truth about Luke being her father. Now, you can also, and I just want to say this clearly on the trailer, you could also take it that the trailer points that she is not Luke's or a Skywalker at all. So it can go either way here. I'm just saying, based on this line, this little tidbit here, I'm thinking he reveals the truth here, and she knows this, and she's had a conflict with Luke, and Luke probably doesn't reveal it, and he's telling her, let go of it. That it doesn't matter. He's dead to you in a way. I don't know. What are your thoughts here, Joe?
Yeah, I don't think that the trailer gives us any indication one way or the other. I mean, if you're a Rey Skywalker fan, I don't think that you got any evidence from this trailer at all. Like, yeah,
none at all.
And I think that, and in fact, the lack of evidence. I mean, obviously, there's evidence for kind of a lot of theories, and obviously that one there's quite a bit of circumstantial evidence all over the place if you want to look for it and if you want to see it. But with this trailer, they didn't give you any of that. So I don't know if that would be troublesome for somebody looking for that information, or in a way, if it is meant to be a misdirect, maybe that would give you some kind of hope in that way. And because, well, they're not going to hint at it in the trailer because they're going to want to stay away from it and kind of trick you. Oh, well, maybe she's not. And then you get to the movie. Oh, okay. Yeah, she is. So anyway, I don't want to get into and focus on that in this episode, but
well, let's get into Luke and Rey. And, when she's out there on Octu, she's doing her fancy moves. Now, which I want to bring up here, because when they did the tease for the trailer, they showed the below ground shot and then the moving around with the saber. And by the way, the music, when she's, that unique music of like the violins, I think it sounds similar to the Imperial March. But when she's moving her saber around, it kind of matches up to that beat, which is interesting. Now, the shot, I said, I don't like that shot. It didn't feel Star Wars to me. But I had said to you and a bunch of other people, I said, if it has some kind of a homage to a samurai film, especially the ones that Ryan looked at while he was, coming up with The Last Jedi, it would be pretty cool to me, and it might take on more of a thing for me. I don't know. But what did you think of the whole training with Luke and Rey and what happens there? I don't know. It was very intriguing because I feel very conflicted, like Luke does. Like, he gets his lightsaber here. He's holding it like, whoa, I haven't held this in like 30 some odd years. And here this girl shows up and everything. And he has his Sunday best on, and then he changes that to his dumpster diving outfit that he had. Although it looks better than what I initially thought. But what are your thoughts on the training and everything? How do you think that goes? Like, because I sense, obviously, there's conflict, but go ahead.
Well, when he first takes the saber, he does sort of have a look on his face like, how did you get this? Like, I mean,
and he's trembling.
Yeah, there's just that look on his face. It's just like quizzical, like very quizzical. And then the face that made it for me is when she cracks the ground while she's, I guess, apparently meditating,
and Luke does the bleep
it's
look.
So funny. Like I laugh just looking at it. It's like, I know that the trailer's not trying to come off like with really too many like lighthearted comedy moments here. But I know that like he and then you see his reaction later, and he's obviously not in a kidding mood. But I really just, I just got a kick out of that. Like it was one of my favorite parts.
Because you were picturing Mark, right? At that moment, you were seeing Mark come through and not Luke. Like you were seeing Mark Hamill going, "Oh crap!" Like Now my question to you: when she cracks the rock, and he does the poop face, right? Now my question to you is, because it goes back to, and I know you don't like when I bring up Mortis and everything, but obviously Mortis was an amplifier to the Force. Is this planet Octu or Achtu or whatever you want to call it? Is it an amplifier itself, and maybe it's bringing out Rey's powers even more? And maybe that's why he's getting like the freaky feeling. I don't know. It's just a theory I had in my head. I think someone even said it in Discord. I'm not sure, but what do you think of that? Is that a possibility as well? Like it's awakening in her, and we got to get to, like an interesting thing. I don't know. What do you think?
I guess it's possible. We'll see what this tree she was walking towards was. We finally got a outside shot of that was a not a leaked shot. So I know we've referenced it on the podcast before, which we probably shouldn't have because it wasn't, it was technically like spoiler area. But so we now see that the books are inside of this kind of old misshapen kind of tree thing, and I don't know if it's if it's supposed to be one of those force trees that we saw in the comics. I don't know if this and then there was the Jedi Temple like in the Clone Wars.
Shattered.
I don't know if it's supposed to be one of those or not. I know there's been a lot of speculation that it's supposed to be one of those.
The weird thing
could be one of those. Those that could amplify the force. That's where I would go with that. I would think that would be able to amplify the force, but not maybe the area or the planet itself. But if she's around that tree, it could be like the, like a Buddhist kind of thing or something with the tree of life or the world tree or something like that.
Well, see, what I find interesting is we see that tree it's like a giant cactus almost, and it's in the mist and everything. So I get the feeling we're going to see some crazy things there, but I don't know if that's exactly where we see those books. I think the books are in that cave where Luke walks in. You see the symbols on the floor, which I would love to see what that symbol is. It's just It's just blurred out where we can't get it. And I think a lot of people say it's the one that's on the book where he's got his hand on there. But I think it's two separate locations, I think. And I think she goes off and wanders on the island herself because Luke is probably contemplating of training her and having in that conflict. In the meantime, she's got to find something to do. I'm wondering how she gets the lightsaber.
The books are at it. It looks like the inside of like a tree, though. It looks like
a tree. Correct.
It doesn't look like a rock. It looks like wood. So that's why I would think they are in the tree, but I don't know.
Well, I agree. I'll grant you that, but I'm wondering because that tree, that stump there that was burned or whatever it is, looks like it's too small to be in that area. So that's why I'm kind of questioning it. I mean, we'll find out soon enough. I'm sure we will. It just seems like it's different, but it could make sense because you got the light that shines on the books there, and that's normally it seems like a shadowy area, and then you got the light shining on that. So obviously, I think we're going to get some wacky force things going on over in that area. I don't know. What do you think? We're going to get some kind of force vision again? I think that'll happen, and I think that might be hinted in this trailer. But we'll talk about that as we get further down. But what else do you have to say about the tree of life? I guess you could say.
No, I mean, that's it on the tree, I guess. So, I guess just jumping into more of where back to where Luke is kind of observing her or training her or whatever he's doing exactly there. When he says that line, I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. And obviously this is what I was talking about earlier, where there was another part where on the surface, you're thinking he's talking about Kylo. And that,
I don't think so.
Well, but it does make it. I'll say this, it does make sense based on what Mark Hamill said in the Entertainment Weekly article about him thinking Ben was the chosen one. So it does make sense that it would be Kylo, but I almost thought that there's a few things, and we were talking about, I think me and Jim and some others were talking about this, with the presence or the raw power he's felt before that he wasn't scared of. And I thought of the Yoda line, you will be, I'm not scared, you will be. And so
40 years later, but you will.
40 years later, you'll be scared. Oh, Yoda was right, damn it. So I think he could be talking about Kylo, which is probably the right choice, and that's probably what it is. But I also think he could be talking about his father. He could be talking about about even Palpatine, because remember, he's the one who was shooting lightning up his butt and he couldn't defend himself. Of course, he did throw the lightsaber away, and or Snoke, or even himself.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, true. Maybe, but that one's a stretch. But I'll say with Palpatine, I go back to the moment when the cuffs get taken off of him and he gets that jolt, like he's like, "Oh crap!" Like I bit off more than I could chew, type of moment. So that's kind of where I'm leaning with that. If it's a Palpatine, but I think it's his father, because it goes back to that whole thing. I'm not afraid anymore, and I don't think he was. And maybe I think it's a homage to that. I think that's when he wasn't afraid. And then he rushes off to do what he does, and we know what happens there. So
that would be a cool way to tie it in. But the reason why I still probably have to go back, and now it's like I said, it's worth talking about that. It's worth thinking about those things, and what it could possibly mean in the movie. And it's fun to think about. But the reason I'll still probably go back and I would lean towards it being referencing Kylo, first of all, because they're the three main characters in this trailer. Like, you get like only like one shot of Finn, you get like a little bit of Poe, but they really focus on these three characters, and we've seen, the original poster was just those three on it, and so I mean, you really feel like it's the story of these three characters in this movie overall. And, we've talked about with the connection between Rey and Kylo. I mean, there's absolutely no denying that, that there's canon information out there that says that there's somehow linked in the Force. It says it right on StarWars.com. So if Rey is that raw power, it would only make sense that Kylo is the other half of that. And, based on some other comments, that I don't have right here in front of me that Ryan has said. But, if you want, you can come on our Discord and talk to Katie McCourt, and she'll tell you all about it. So, but it only, that would make probably the most sense to me. Now, again, it could be talking about Vader, and I think Vader would probably be the other strongest possibility. If I was going to put it in percentages, I would probably lean like, this is talking about Kylo 70% and Vader like 25% would be my, and then everybody else would be very low percentages that I mentioned before, that what Luke is referring to there. But it's still, it's just a really cool line, and when the look on his face and the way it's delivered and his tone of voice, and he just kind of walks away, it's really poignant. And I wonder, that we've heard that there's a Mark Hamill monologue. I don't know if that's part of it or if we haven't seen any of that yet, but that we heard back in the day, he'll have a monologue in this movie that's basically Oscar worthy. So I'm still waiting to I'm still craving to hear that.
Well, the other reason I say Vader is because Vader was the chosen one based on the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. There, it was that, and Vader was the most powerful.
We did have 20,000 midichlorians.
Exactly. So I hope they bring up midichlorians in this just to get people mad.
I do. I want them back so I can manipulate them.
Yeah. So all right. Well, let's get into what Rey said here. Something inside me has always been there. Then I was awake, and I need help. Now, I think this is her talking. And Indiana Jim and I went back and forth on this earlier before we came on, and I agreed with him. I think he's obviously talking. She's obviously talking to Luke here. I know the way it looks. At the end, it's construed in a way where you would think otherwise. But what do you think of this as well? Like she's becoming more. Obviously, she's awakened. She's more in tune with things. The other thing I'll say about Luke freaking out there with the strength is maybe it's like a reincarnation of Anakin. Maybe that's what he's getting. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there real quick. But give us your thoughts on what Rey had to say here.
I mean, this is a lot of the kind of stuff that you'll read with, if you read some Joseph Campbell and talking about transcendence. So it really makes me think that they're going there, that it's not. And we talked about this a few weeks ago about I think it was on the episode, You Can't Teach Rey the Force. And I think this ties into that. I mean, it really does, because it's not about, you could teach her the ideals and the morals, and this goes for anybody, not just Rey, but that raw, malleable power that she has, you can't replicate that. And I think, when we likened it to, like an athlete or somebody like that who's naturally gifted, it doesn't mean you don't have to work at it. It doesn't mean you don't have to stay in shape and, eat right and work out and get yourself stronger. But I mean, when I was a kid, Mike, some kids just ran a lot faster than I did. And I was, pretty decent, little athlete when I was a kid, but there was just some kids who were just burners, and, they were kids. They didn't work out and go to the gym every day. They were just naturally could run faster than me or in the other kids too. So, I mean, and there's a million different kind of examples you could think of and put in place there. Some people were just better at different things, art, name it. So that's my point with all that, is that Rey is such, and even, Ben too, is they're such power. They're just so naturally powerful in the Force that it's all they have to do is accept it and let it in. And it goes back to those lines in the Force Awakens trailer that really didn't kind of get into the movie, but where it's like, just let it in. And it's just and that's what it is, that you have to let it in. You have to accept it. And it's something inside of you, but then you need to have a place to, where do you go with this? So I think it's a little bit of that idea of transcendence within yourself, and you've opened yourself up to this larger world, which is the idea of the Force. So it's, and the more and more I read on this stuff, the Force and the Jedi way, it really just sounds so much like the Buddha way, in so many different ways and so many correlations to it. And so that's what it reminds me of with these lines. And it's funny, we just talked about this a few weeks ago, and now it comes back again, and it looks like that we were on the right track there with that.
Well, the only thing I could say is that Snoke and Luke could offer the two of them is to maybe control the power, because they're powerful as well, and they had to learn to control it. And I think that's, probably the only thing they could.
Older, experienced, I'm going to look at, because Snoke has got his own bad agenda, so I'm looking more of it on the Luke side of things. And Rey needs, she needs somebody who's been there, who's done that, because you still don't want to rush into the fight. Luke's like, hey, I've done that, But at the same time, does it go back to that kind of thing? Well, you've got to make your own mistakes too. So it's like, I can be here and I can warn you that this isn't going to be the way you think it's going to be, basically what Luke says here in the trailer. But at the same time, Luke also found out in the original trilogy, he didn't listen, and he has to go make his own mistakes. So, that's part of the kind of growing up and the passages of, the rites of passage and things like that, where it's like, yeah, you can listen to the teacher for so long, but eventually you've got to go experience it yourself, kind of thing too.
Well, and then I'm going to get into it, because there's a shot of Kylo riding the elevator. I'm playing fancy music in my head, Muskrat Love, as he's going up the elevator. But he's again contemplating. There's a lot of like Vader-esque moments here where he's just thinking about things. And obviously he smashes his helmet and he's not exactly happy. I don't know what that's in reference to. He's got the back to Band-Aid there, that interesting thing that he's got on his face. With Kylo, I just want to talk about him for a few minutes here, Joe, a little bit more, is I get the feeling like he fails Snoke in a way. I mean, I kind of get that feel, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, the trailer kind of hints at that a little bit, because he's before the guards and everything. And based on the things we saw behind the scenes, it looks like he starts to fight them, or maybe it's a test. Who knows? But any thoughts on Kylo and what's transpiring with him, other than, what we think is going to happen? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously he's still, doing First Order things, because, I mean, we see that on, we see him in the silencer. And they hint at, is he going to shoot at Leia? Is he not? He's all in this turmoil. We see him with the troops with the stormtroopers on Crate. So we know that he's still directing these guys, and he's still out, with the First Order at this point. So
correct, because you imagine Crate is like the last battle.
But I mean, he followed in his grandfather's footsteps and let their super weapon get blown up. So I'm sure Snoke wasn't happy about that. So. I mean, I guess there would be, and that was, we got that hint way back in The Force Awakens when he says, I'm going to finish his training, bring him to me. It's time to finish his training, kind of thing. So it is interesting that, he smashes the helmet. And of course, I was always saying, just don't put the helmet, let him act, let Adam act and things.
Oh, it seems like
I think that they've created the story around that. Like, let's get the mask off of this guy and let his facial expressions and things do the acting. Let his real voice, not this muffled computer generated Adam Driver voice. Let this guy act. And I think that they've
I think it pays
molded
off because
the story
around
that, basically, so that can happen.
The emotions, and the emotions that he shows in that clip of contemplating taking his mom out. A great job by Adam pulling that off. The expression on his face.
Go back and look at his, again, Katie will point this out to you, but like, go back and watch that Force Awakens scene when he's in the torture, so not the torture, but the interrogation scene, and watch how many different facial expressions he has in the matter of like 5 seconds, like at different points in that. And it's just, I don't know. Some people really, and I'm one of them, they really like the way that he pulls off his acting and stuff like that. So I think it's the right move to, obliterate the helmet and let's just go. Now the story wise, it's like he's not hiding anymore. He's not hiding behind this mask. He's not ashamed of the face.
Who he is.
He has the face of Ben Solo. Maybe he's not ashamed of that. Maybe with the scar now, maybe that's a rite of passage for him, and maybe that's transformed him finally. Now I'm finally, I don't need this mask because now I can wear this as a badge of honor or something. I don't know what his mentality would be storyline wise, but I mean, I kind of figured that's why they did. Behind the scenes, this is why that's happening.
Yeah, and now it also hints at this in the trailer that mom and son have a connection going on between this, and it's almost like Leia. It hints at this. Now, I don't think she dies at this point, or if she even dies, I don't know how they're going to handle all that. We hate talking about it on the show because it's such a strange thing for us here, but you get the sense it reminded me of Luke and Leia at that point where she's kind of communicating or she senses him or whatever. It's that moment there. However, I think looking at her face, it looks like she's okay with what happens, like in a way, like she's waiting for the release. I don't know. Maybe that's just how I interpret it. But what do you think? And we'll move on from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people have been pointing this scene out in the trailer. It's that, as like their favorite moment, between what's going on, in the conundrum that Kylo has here. He's like, do I kind of go through with this and become what I'm meant to be? And so, I mean, Kylo could even be talking to himself when he's saying some of these lines, like he's trying to
be talking to the helmet.
Like he's trying to like pump himself up or something, or, maybe he's got Vader's helmet out and he's talking to it again or something. So there's no telling with that. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely, you get the sense that he obviously knows that what he's possibly going to shoot at there, Leia is on it, and he probably senses her presence. That look on her face leads us to believe, if the two shots even correlate with each other, but we're led to believe that she's feeling him through the Force. I'm sure when he gets that close, if he's that close, I'm sure she would sense his presence, so it probably wouldn't be an issue for her. I mean, she felt Han die from half the galaxy away, so.
Yeah, true, and you got to ask, why can't she feel Luke? Because Luke probably shut the Force off, I guess you could say. But in any case, well, we got the Falcon flying through yet again a cavern, so to speak. I mean, how many times have we seen that now? And, but I'll leave it at that. I don't want to, get into that too much. But we'll talk about Poe a little bit. Hold on,
I just wanted to say that Chewie's face looked really weird when he screamed. Looks weird. And then we've never, and I'm just going to say pork.
No, let's not go there. No, come on. We did so many episodes without mentioning.
I thought he was pretty cute. I laughed when he screamed. So I thought that was your one comedy kind of relief moment. Besides Luke's astonished face, this was your comedy relief moment for the trailer. So it was okay, but we'll move on.
Well, I got to say, the problem is they don't show who's flying the Falcon at that point.
Well, I guess Chewie can fly it from the co-pilot seat. Was he?
Well, he's done that before, where he picked Rey up and Finn, so it's a possibility.
But why is he so averse to getting into the co-pilot seat? I guess maybe he's got that seat broken in because he's so large. And,
it's like Sheldon. He's like Sheldon. That's my spot. But let's talk about Poe, where he says we are the spark that will light the fire that will burn the First Order down, which is interesting. It seems like Poe is going into more of a leadership role. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those lines you would think, like, hey, it's a rah-rah kind of speech. That's pretty much, kind of what I got out of that. And then we see him flying around and we get the shot of BB-8. And I was a little disappointed we didn't get an R2 shot besides the shot we had already seen with him and Luke in that flashback scene of apparently the Jedi Temple burning. So we didn't get like a new shot of R2 in this. So I was a little disappointed with that, but we do see BB-8 and, I really felt, BB-8, he's like, man, I was like the new kid in town last movie. And now it's like, nobody's talking about me anymore. So, but yeah, so we get that shot of him, and you get to see kind of some of the cool, vehicles out there. And I guess there was a shot of at some point of Snoke's like huge super destroyer.
I
ship
can't remember
thing.
what they call it.
I don't know. All I know is it's supposed to be like 60 kilometers, like long or something. Which I tried to imagine that in my head, and like that's how far. Like it's like 37 miles we figured out. Like because we don't use the metric system here in America. Sorry guys, but so 37. That's about what I drive to work. Like, and it takes me like 50 minutes to drive to work, and I'm like, geez, like. Just that would take a few lifetimes to build.
Well, I don't know. It's in the future. They could be real quick about it. So
it's in the future, but somehow in the past.
What now? I don't know if you'll care about this, but what did you think of my girl Phasma taking on Finn here? I mean, I thought it was I thought it was a cool shot. Like I know we've had some people say, I don't really care about Phasma. Why should I care about Phasma? This and that. And this is the only shot of Finn we get in the whole trailer. So he kind of got left in the dark on this trailer too a little bit, but he gets, I really liked when they zoom in on Phasma's helmet there and you see the glowing of that electro staff or whatever Finn is swinging at her and they're clashing there. I thought it was a really cool vision. Yeah, without a doubt. And then seeing his reflection in the helmet, because in the Force Awakens novel or even in the Phasma novel, it's mentioned that how people see themselves die in her helmet or her armor, which is pretty cool. So there's a kind of a homage there. I think that's pretty neat. I'm looking forward to this fight, actually. I don't know who's going to win, to be honest. I tend to think DJ is going to come out of nowhere and save the day for him, because I have a theory that DJ is actually Cardinal, who was in the Phasma novel, and maybe that'll tie in because they actually have a bit of a rivalry, so to speak, and that would tie Finn and him together and going at it. I don't know. Who do you think's going to win? I mean, I would say Phasma, really, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Finn's got some bionic parts in there to help him out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know. I mean, just based on quotes from John Boyega, I mean, we know he's in Episode 9, so I don't think he's going to die by any stretch of the imagination. And here's the thing about him getting injured. He just got injured. He just recovered. So it's like hard to imagine him. It's like, is he just going to get his butt kicked every movie? I mean, he didn't really beat up Phasma like Chewie beat up Phasma in the first one. So it was just Finn was talking all the trash. And I guess that's where, for Phasma's part, and then obviously he's a traitor and all this blah, blah, blah. So that, that's why Phasma, and that it's personal, and between both of them from that standpoint. But so, yeah, I don't know. I guess Finn's just gonna, if he does get his butt kicked, I guess that'll be 2 out of 2. So I don't really have
money on anyone.
I don't really have any idea, or I really haven't even thought about who I think will win that. Maybe we'll save that for the final hype of The Last Jedi here in about a month and a half, and when we make all our predictions, maybe I'll make a prediction at that
point. All right, well, let's get into the line that I think is almost filmed specifically for this trailer, just to troll us, because the king of trolls, Mark Hamill, says the line, "This is not going to go the way you think." And he's lying on the ground, which is interesting, because there was a bit of debate over that in the Discord about why would he be on the ground? He's a powerful Force user, all these other things. And then we get into the whole debate of maybe he's not so powerful anymore. He's like, Obi-Wan.
Maybe he fell down and broke his hip, and that's why he needs that walking stick.
Where's my remote? Where's my pudding? Come on. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. Maybe he fell.
Didn't Yoda have a hover chair? Can I
it
get
was
one
at
of
the
those?
Jedi Temple that burned down. Thanks, Ben.
Well, this seems to be the same scene that where Rey dives into the water. It seems to be a continuation of that. Maybe where when Rey dives into the water and she pulls herself out of the water, in that scene right there, that one quick shot where you see Luke standing there, seemingly waiting for her, and she pulls herself up. I love the way she stands. Like her stance there, it's a split second. I don't know what it is. It feels like a really iconic shot to me. I just love the imagery of it, and it looks like it's raining at that point. And then so that leads me to believe that whatever happens after that point, Luke ends up on the ground. Maybe she pushes him over, she gets mad at him or something, and maybe pushes him or something. That was kind of my theory with that, how he ended up that way. But yeah, I love that whole where she pulls herself out of the water and the way she stands. I don't know how to explain it. Why just her standing there?
Well, is it a defiant type of thing?
Is so cool to me, but like it just
is it defiant? Is it like kind of standing up to your master, or I don't know.
I don't know. It's just like kind of like that. I don't know. I mean, it's like, was he waiting down there for her? Like, I mean, how did he get down there? If she swam and pulls herself out of the water there, like, how was he already there kind of thing? Like, what's going on with all that scene? There's just all this kind of, I mean, I have no theories really on it. It's just like, I mean, that's what the trailer's meant to do. It's like, what's going on here? What the heck is going on? It's, and so that's what that scene kind of did for me. I just really, visually, I just really, really like that where she's standing there in front of him for that split second. And then obviously he's on the ground, and that's even only a split second. We see it, but then it's gone. Like immediately you have to just like freeze frame it to kind of look at it. But he's obviously kind of on the ground, maybe propping himself up with an elbow or something. But it reminds me of the line, in Game of Thrones where they said, if you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. That's where that line, it reminds me of that kind of line where it's almost breaking the fourth wall, if you will, because it's a character saying it to another character, but it's almost like it's speaking to the audience as well. So I wonder if it's one of those kind of lines.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I think it's two different shots for the same take. Like, I think they took one where he's standing there and then one where he's on the ground. Maybe something happens, the things that have been rumored and stuff like that. So it's hard to tell. Again, it's a trailer. Who knows if one of them makes it in the thing or doesn't make it in the thing. It's just interesting that Luke would be on the ground. Of course, he pooped his pants when she shattered the rock. So maybe this is another one of those moments that we see. And just real quick,
we're gonna get forced diapers now.
Yeah, we'll go with the walking stick.
Forced to pins.
And just Crate real quick is a very interesting planet. You get the crystal fox, which is pretty cool. There's a pack of them apparently going into the Rebel.
Yeah, I want one. I hope they make like a good like somebody makes like a good figure of that. Like I actually want one of those, like some kind of collectible one of those. I really like these guys because they're. Well, I like dogs, so and they're kind of dog-like.
It's like a cat-dog mix crystal thing. I imagine.
Yeah, they remind me. They remind me of. They're like foxes, yeah. But a fox is like they're related to dogs, like
sort of. Yeah. But in any case, we'll move on to. I guess we should talk about Snoke. I guess you could. Oh no, we should talk about Leia real quick, sitting out and pondering things because she's again looks like she's pondering things like as her son is doing. She's out before the door of the crate there where the rebels or whatever you want to call them fly in and out or do their thing. And she's got that very closed off kind of look. Like it's kind of an interesting way that she's looking. Like she's very somber. So I get the feeling Leia's feeling the burdens finally after all these years. I mean, she always has, but she
well, and doesn't it remind you a little bit? I know she's not standing at the same part, but it's kind of symbolic to The Empire Strikes Back. Oh, I know people don't want to hear that, but where they're closing the door when Han is out looking for Luke, and they close the door, and I know she's not standing right by the door, but you hear the door close in Empire Strikes Back. But here you see, I mean, obviously at some point they close the doors because they're closing them and the boxes are running in or whatever. So she's standing out there kind of looking out into the way R2 was when he was searching for them on his radar and things like that. So there is a little bit of a feel to that where she's looking out there, what's going to happen, and fearful for what's going to happen because she was an Empire, because she was worried about Han and Luke. So and then now she's probably worried about maybe what Ben is going to do,
Luke,
what
everybody,
and maybe even Luke. I mean, if Luke even leaves Oz 2 or whatever. Does. So I mean well, your theory isn't disproven through this trailer, but nothing's proven
concrete
either. I really hope he does. I mean, he's got to get involved in the action, I think. I mean, if he doesn't, based on the way his face looks and and him saying he's afraid. I mean, I was making jokes this morning, like I was eating like some candies and I was like, I like the yellow ones best. I call him Luke. And so I was kind of throwing some jokes out there, throwing shade at Luke. And I was like, so Luke's going to maybe have to, either redeem himself or Rey can't do it all. So maybe she convinces him, but he's going to have to put the action in course here and come back into the fold. And at least I hope he does. I hope we don't have to wait. I hope we don't have to wait till 9 to see some kind of action from Luke.
Do we get
really hope
the
not.
Yoda Attack of the Clones moment where he walks in and takes him on? I would love to see that.
Yeah, do you think that would be too corny though? Would it just be too predictable?
Well,
too
Star
corny?
Wars is repeating themes, and I wouldn't be surprised. And if he ignites the saber,
would that overshadow? But if he comes in with that, whoever he's saving, whether it's Rey and Ben or Rey and whoever else or whoever, maybe a group of people, I don't know. Would it take away from their characters a little bit because they needed saving from the old Jedi Master?
Did it take away
again, Obi-Wan and Anakin, needed saving. So they just weren't as powerful, and they had to do some growing. But then and then Anakin eventually did, and he was able to defeat Dooku. So I don't know.
Well, I think that's the kind of moment that would go. I mean, I know people will bitch about it until 9 comes out, and then they see the growth or whatever the transition will be at that point. But it's a very good possibility we get that moment. I wouldn't mind as long as we get the lightsaber, the green lightsaber to ignite, because I imagine Luke and him are so powerful in the Force that a lightsaber is the only choice to do it. Which would be.
And we always said like Snoke was afraid of Luke. Like, what if they're just both scared of each other?
I think they cancel each other out where they can't do anything to each other. So, it's like, hey, I can't do anything. You can't do.
What are they, Voldemort and Harry? Yeah. Like they can't attack each other. Like their lightsabers both have the same core or something, the same kyber crystal in it. I don't know. You would really, to me, that you'd really have to try to. That would take some explaining to where, besides the fact that they would just be kind of equal strength, but still somebody would eventually win in a fight. It's like Yoda and Palpatine. They were pretty evenly matched, I guess you could say, with Palpatine using the dark side, kind of getting his strength up to Yoda's level, I think you could say. And, and it was, neither one of them killed each other, but, Palpatine eventually kind of won that duel. And then, Anakin's supposed to be more powerful than anybody, and Obi-Wan beats him. So anything can happen in a fight. So, you'd really there'd have to be some kind of greater explanation to why they're canceling each other out in that way.
All right. Well, let's get into the throne room itself. And obviously Snoke has Rey in this Force suspense, I guess you could say, because she's up in the air. She's screaming. Is he mind probing her? What is he doing? Obviously he's saying.
It looks like he's doing some kind of she's screaming like she's in a tremendous amount of pain, which Poe was screaming too. And, but I think that was more because he didn't want his information out.
And he doesn't have the Force.
Angry maybe, but I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was so painful, but maybe he could be taking information from her and that's painful. Or I think maybe he's just torturing her in the way of,
to lure Luke out, maybe?
Wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cooler if this effect wasn't finished and that was actually Force lightning, like wrapping around her, like holding her up in the air? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think that it is. I'm not saying it is, but like this seems like a Force lightning type of ability where it's just pure torture. We just don't get the glowy stuff, I guess is what I'm saying. So that's the way I'm taking it. He's torture. What is he trying to get out of her? Like, what is he trying to make her do? He says the line, "Fulfill your destiny," which is the exact same line.
Exactly. Now
it's the exact same line that Palpatine says to Luke. So
I'll say this: is like the close-up look of Snoke. What we see of him looks better than I imagined, because all the stuff I saw before, we joke Freddy Krueger, this, that, and the other. It looks pretty darn good, if you ask me. They spent the money on that effect, I guess you could say. There, it's interesting that Rey is there. We saw Kylo earlier in there. I'm wondering, are they both up there?
Well, you can see the guards. Well, you can see the
Praetorian guard,
Praetorian guard in the back in the background there. So this makes me think of the behind the scenes trailer where we see both Adam and Daisy practicing choreography, fighting multiple people at the same time. So I don't know if that would have anything to do with this scene, because we know that there are multiple guards, and we were kind of maybe guessing it was these guards way back then. So I don't know. So, I mean, but obviously there was that what was it? The Lego toy or something, or was it a Hasbro toy that came out where it's Rey in Snoke's throne room? And, so, I mean, obviously that's coming to fruition. It just wasn't a toy. It was based on something in the movie, obviously.
All right. So now let's get to, I guess, the big part of the, well, actually, before we do that, Joe, because we did skip one where Luke is at the temple again, where his hand's coming out of the pile of wood. I take it as part of the vision where his hand's coming out and he's, getting out of the rubble. Now, this kind of throws a little wrench in headcanon because we always thought he shows up late based on what we saw in The Force Awakens and what we saw in the earlier thing where he leans down next to R2. Here, it looks like he was there and survived. And that's going to tie in with what I'm going to mention at the end here. But go ahead. What are your thoughts?
One point of symbolism is because all we see is the mechanical hand pulling up, like pulling the body up. It very symbolically reminds me of Anakin pulling himself up through the lava after he's been burned.
True.
I know we see his whole body, but my point is that that's what we see is that mechanical arm
gripping,
pulling through, and there's fire in that in this scene, in this new scene. The only reason I don't think that it is the temple is because if you look at the wood, it's not like lumber. It's not like processed wood that would be like in like that you'd like build like a house or something out of. It's like, it looks like firewood. It just looks like somebody just went and chopped a tree down or like a log cabin type, or like something that would be made out of a hut. So, but why would Luke be, I mean, and how is he not hurt? Like how would he not be, badly injured or something like that? I don't know. I mean, because we see that there's some fire going on too, so you'd be worried about him, maybe getting charred up like his dad there. So I don't know. I mean, that's the reason those far shots of the temple on fire, the temple looked like it was pretty nice actually. So I don't know that they were using like this kind of, I get that the wood could maybe shatter and splinter, but I mean, just look at that picture. I mean, some of it looks like fire logs almost.
Was he hiding in the logs?
I don't know. Maybe he just did it to freak Rey out or something, or maybe it's some kind of vision that Rey is having, and maybe it's who knows who pulls.
Not even him.
Maybe it's not Luke's hand. Maybe it's Anakin's hand. Maybe like some vision of burn up Anakin like pulls itself out through this fire, and Rey's like, "Oh my God,
that
what's
counts
going
as me
on?
winning
Like,
the bet, though, if that happens."
Like,
I just want to point that out.
And he's like, and Hayden Christensen's like, "I'm your
How you doing?" Yeah,
so,
but
like, no,
all right. Well,
he's like, "What's
speaking
up?"
of that, we should get into what Rey says. I need someone to show me my place in all of this. And we see Rey's face. It's lit up on one side and it's dark on the other side. Very interesting, light and dark there, the balance. But she's wearing what looks to be the clothes she wore at the end of The Force Awakens here. And then, of course...
Yeah, definitely. And her hair is still in the manner of The Force Awakens.
The buns and everything.
Because you can see you can see the tendrils on the side there. So she hasn't let her hair down yet like she does with the new outfit on. So this will be in the first half of the movie, like right here, you would think.
Correct. And then, of course, we see Kylo standing before her. The light is different, and there's more going on in the background with Kylo. You see, like, flames going on.
Yeah, his face is fully lit up. And
correct.
So we've come to the conclusion with everybody in the Discord and everybody we've talked to that these are just two completely separate scenes spliced together to make it seem like that they're corresponding with each other when she's probably really saying that line to Luke around the campfire
in that
or
thing,
something.
and that's when he walks out and says, "I only know one truth," blah, 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 blah. But with Kylo here, and all the flame that's going on in it right here, is this him extending his hand to Luke? And I say this, I know it's going to sound weird when you first hear me say this, like what? Like in the vision, like this is what happens, and maybe, but he's got a scar on his face, so that debunks that. But what if he's reaching out to Luke here? Because he knows he's not going to kill his nephew, because that's not Luke, or at least that wasn't what Luke was like then. And, Ben is not as powerful enough to kill Luke. So maybe it's Luke that he's extending the hand to, but maybe it could be Rey. And this is where he's talking to her, you need to kill the past. And he mentions Luke is your father here. And this is what, kind of messes with her head and stuff like that. And then, there's a lot going on here with this one Kylo shot here. I definitely don't think it's with Rey and all that other stuff, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I thought of it too. Could he be trying to extend the olive branch to Luke? I mean, and again, I think this is the part where it's trying to make you think. And trust me, Ryan has heard all the rumors and all the fan theories and everything. And if you don't think that he's going to
troll you,
basically, I mean, like if he's not going to try to plant seeds and then they're going to go in a completely now, maybe it's not. Maybe this really something does. And we've said as much that on that episode back in July where we did the connection between Kylo and Rey, we said as much that there's this big possibility, and at least in our opinion, that they would, because of the way that the StarWars.com, there's those quotes in both of their profiles. And, we took some stuff from the novel and obviously with The Force Awakens, and we see that there's this connection. And then we have that whole theory on the vision of not just her witnessing the vision, but maybe he sees his own version of that same vision, maybe with her mask and stuff on, and he didn't know who she was. And so there's that theory that's out there that's tied into a larger theory, but I don't like that theory, so I just took that part of it because that's what I do. But my point is there's so many different possibilities here. He definitely could. It could be straight up that he's offering, hey, we need to team up together to bring balance to the Force because that we're both two sides of the coin here with the Force. And why is that possible? I don't know. Obviously they'll explain that. Is it because of the bloodline, or is it just a complete coincidence? I get, and they're not related at all. So I'll at least throw it out there.
Oh, by the indication of the trailer, yeah.
But I do think that him asking Luke and extending the olive branch, I do think that it's a possibility. Now, whether Luke would accept that or not is a whole different question.
Exactly. Like, I don't think Luke would kill him, obviously, because that's not Luke. That he can't bring himself to do that. But if that were the case, is Kylo even forgivable at this point? I mean, I don't know. I can't. There's a lot of questions there.
Well, he's not just gonna be in a scene and Rey's not going to flip out. I mean, she's still pissed about him killing Han. So,
and if this is early on in the film where Rey is talking and being that calm, it's not with Kylo. Because I would imagine maybe at the end of the film they have. Well,
at this point, he doesn't have his Band-Aids on anymore, so it's at least past a certain part of the film for Kylo. And again, she doesn't. It's so hard to place where both of these scenes would be. But again, and who knows? I mean, it might not even be in the movie. Just like we keep saying that some of these shots might not actually make the movie. I mean, plenty of them for The Force Awakens didn't, and even more for Rogue One didn't. But that was probably for different reasons. But
true. Well, I think that whole line, it's not going to go the way you think, is basically mocking Ryan, say, hey, let's do this to troll everybody. And this could be one of those things too. To like they poked fun of all of our theories here in one trailer. I mean, I will say this, there's no evidence in this trailer that she's a Skywalker, and there's no evidence that she's not. It's kind of like ambiguous, I guess you could say. You get, of course, the connection at the end here. Obviously, we know there's a connection with them. How that goes about, we can debate and argue that another day, but it's there. I mean, it's an interesting take, but I think it's all a misdirect, and we shall see in a couple of months, and maybe as the months go on, we'll get a little bit more. But overall, Joe, we'll just wrap this up here, unless you got anything else to say. But your thoughts on the trailer as a whole? Did you like it? Love it? Nah. What did you think?
It took me a while to process. I didn't know if I liked it at first. Actually, I think it just taken me some time to warm up to it. And plus, I was at work when I had to watch it, so I had these other things going around in my head, and so I wasn't able to concentrate on it, and I guess maybe enjoy it as much as I would have liked to, just based on being at work, and we all can relate to that. So I think that's where I was coming from. And by the time I got home this morning and I watched it, I feel like I had warmed up to it a little more. But remember, if you go back and listen to some older episodes, we didn't like The Force Awakens title at first, and then we warmed up to it. So it's not always instant. Like, oh, I love every.
We evolve our opinions all the time. We always do
that.
that.
Well,
yeah.
I think we just needed some time to process it. And I think it's a good thing that, like you said at the beginning, that maybe we didn't do the instant reaction show, because I think it would have been a different episode. I think our tone, at least mine, I know, would have been maybe
sour.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, and I had only got to see it once, so I didn't get to see that. What was happening. I wasn't able to dissect it as much, if you get it. So like I wasn't.
Yeah.
So like I was thinking things were. I wasn't. I was thinking I was taking things too literal.
Face value.
Yeah, I was taking it too much at face value, too literal, and I kind of, I was. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say, it doesn't give me I know other people are way into it. It doesn't give me the goosebumps the way the Force Awakens trailer did, or even the teaser trailer did. Like the original teaser trailer gave me
the Anaheim one.
Yeah, from April. So for this movie, so it just, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not saying the music is bad, but I don't think that the music hits me emotionally, and I think that the music is part of it for me, where it's not. It doesn't speak to me personally, and it doesn't get my emotions going. So it doesn't correlate to me with what we're seeing on the screen, as far as at least an emotional level for me.
Well, I can guarantee you this, though. We will be one of the first podcasts to have a reaction episode when the movie comes out. Like that night, it'll probably be out that morning. I can guarantee you that. But I would just want the tickets real quick. I don't know if you got yours, but I got mine earlier in the night. I got mine at 7 o'clock. I bought the ticket. And as I always said, go to the local theater and you'll get in. And I did. And it's funny because I got it and I kept checking and I'm like, oh, wow, this is interesting. I got it at like 6 o'clock. And then as time went on, like around 7 o'clock, I checked it again. And they took the thing to buy the tickets off. I'm like, oh, great. They're going to email me and say I couldn't buy the ticket, blah, 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 blah. So then when it officially comes out and I check the things, they have this fan event. And the fan event, it's a little more expensive, $24 or whatever, $25 or whatever it was. But there's all these things that are going to be involved with it. And it starts at 6 p.m., the show. So I'm going to see it at 6 p.m. and not 7. So I'll get to see it an hour earlier than I had planned. So I did that. I ended up buying that ticket. The other one I'll just keep for, I don't know, a collectible or whatever, the stub or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. What was your luck with the tickets, Joa?
Well, I was just going to wait till the morning to buy them when I got up home from work. And luckily, Ashley checked it. I didn't even ask her to. And she checked it and the seats were kind of going away. And so she went ahead and got 2 of them for the 7 o'clock show at the local theater, and they're reserved seats, so at least I know where I'll be sitting, and I won't be having to kick people around to get 2 seats together. So they aren't exactly where I would have wanted, but they're not bad. They're not for front row or anything. So I mean, it'll be all right. So I'll see it a bunch more times. I'm sure I'll get better seats then. But yeah, I usually like to go middle. These are like kind of the seats right before the handicap section in your theater, and then it's off to the right just a little bit. Yeah. So I'm not too far back at all, and I'm not quite in the middle, but I don't think it's good. Once the movie starts, I'm not going to notice.
It doesn't matter. Exactly.
As long as I'm not in the front row and my neck is cramping up, I'll be okay.
Yeah, I gotta be in the back. That's my spot. But if I know it's first night and it's whatever you can do, whatever man can do, whatever you can do, woman, man, child, whatever you can fight for yourself to get your spot where you want to be and just accept
Usually
it.
I like to sit in the handicap section area where they've got a couple seats and then there's spaces and a couple seats and spaces, because if I'm just walking into a theater to see a movie, I'll just pick those, because like then you can kind of sit with the person you're with, and then nobody else can sit around you, and you've got all this leg room. And when people get up to go to the bathroom or whatever, like
it's not a problem.
They're not blocking your view. So to me, those are the perfect seats when you can get them. But anyway. All
right. Well, I guess this is going to do it for our trailer breakdown. Joe, I'm sure we're going to have more to talk about. I'm sure there's a few things we missed, but we just hit the key points that we wanted to talk about. As always, we can't cover everything within an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to miss some stuff, but I'm sure in the coming weeks we're going to have some stuff. And next week I guess this is the official kickoff of 100 days of the Last Jedi coverage.
So make
Joe,
sure you start using those hashtags. And hashtag 100 days of the Last Jedi. And I know we've only got like 65 or 66 days until the Last Jedi comes out, but that's not what it's in reference to. It's in reference to the hype leading up, and then obviously after the movie and all our coverage after the movie, like going into late January, where we're going to do, our review shows, our listener feedback shows based on the movie, our Rey show, our Luke show, our Kylo show, our Snoke show, our Finn and Poe show, and our Leia show, obviously, as well. But next week is...
It's not going to end.
Yeah. But next week is the psychology of Leia, which we have some guests on to talk about that. And but I just wanted to give real quick another shout out to everybody in Discord. And I did it this morning. I typed out a thank you to all of them, but we've got about 130 people who have logged into this Discord now, and a lot of active users, and a bunch of people showed up for the little audio event we did last night leading up to the trailer. And then after the trailer, people were sticking around and talking, and people get in there all the time and all the text channels and chatting away about Star Wars. And 99% of the time, everybody's really well behaved and very, very cool, and pretty safe space for Star Wars. And I just want to thank all of them for being involved. And they thank us all the time for doing the podcast. But if it wasn't for them and the other listeners of the podcast and all that, like, we wouldn't still be doing this. So, a thank you deserves to go out to them as well. And so I just wanted to say that. Other than that, are we wrapping it up?
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. We'll be back next week with the Leia dissection, the psychology. And then after that, we'll probably dissect a little bit more of the trailer and things that we find out and stuff like that. So thanks for listening. And, Joe, tell them where to like us and find us. I almost forgot that.
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter at The Cantina Cast, Facebook.com/The Cantina Cast. And you can leave us a review on iTunes or any podcatcher. And then also, again, find us on our Discord. And we've got those links and stuff posted. It'll be in the show notes, and then also all over our social media. Got some links and stuff you can find, and that's it.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.